Hey everyone, what up? Kaiser here. Now I'm pretty sure you guys know that I'm a big fan of Scarlet Nexus. I absolutely loved it when it first came out back in 2021, and I still love it to this day, especially since it's now got better, with quality of life features, updates, and of course, new extra content. Some of which I even covered in a new other video. But, of course, there is one thing in Scarlet Nexus that I've overlooked until now, and that was, well, the anime. And fun fact, did you know that whenever an episode of the anime was airing, they would give you a free, special code, and you go to Misubi's, and then you use that code to unlock a special reward? Well, they do that, but obviously I watched the anime very late, so I never got that opportunity. Not that I'm pretty sure it's nothing that special. Now, obviously, Namco themselves are no stranger to do anime adaptations for their JRPGs. Especially since, JRPGs in general tend to sometimes have anime tropes for their characters, as well as things like, say, even animated openings and cutscenes made by a studio that makes anime. And they've done this for things like the Tale series, God Eater, Dot Hack, as well as even Xenosaga. And other companies themselves have banked on this to varying levels of success and sometimes absolute failures. So it's no surprise that Scarlet Nexus would get an anime. In fact, the only thing surprising about it is that it got itself an anime over something like Tales of Arise. But, however, things get a little bit complicated, as well, the anime itself rarely gets talked about, and when it does get talked about, it's not exactly in a positive light, with the anime itself either getting mixed reviews to full-on negative reviews. And after watching it myself, oh boy, do I have a lot of things to say about it. But before we begin with this review, if you like what you're seeing here, then by all means, like the video, click the subscribe button if you're new, and hit that bell notification icon if you want to get updated by all Scarlet Nexus content and JRPG content from yours truly. Not only that, but I'm in the middle of trying to reach 500 subscribers, hopefully before the end of the year, and where I will have a very, very exciting special, so by all means. Now back to the video. So, the anime itself comprises of 26 episodes that go on for 24 minutes. And with that out of the way, I think it's time to finally teleport ourselves and dive into the Scarlet Nexus anime. So what's the story of the Scarlet Nexus anime, you may ask? Well, briefly put, it's the exact same thing as, the game story. And if you don't know what the story of Scarlet Nexus goes like, how about I transition you over to my past self reviewing the game and talking about its synopsis. Well, it's set in the far future where humanity has developed technology and found a substance dormant in human brains that has given them psionic abilities and powers known as psionics. But that unfortunately has gained the attention of the others, dangerous, mindless and deformed mutant creatures that come from the extinction belt high up in the sky, with the intention of devouring brains. To combat this new threat, a military organization has been formed, comprised of beings with psionics, called the Other Suppression Force, or OSF for short. And you have the option to play as either Yuto Sumeragi, a naive, carefree boy who volunteered on joining the OSF after an OSF member saved him as a kid and has recently become a new recruit, or Kasane Randall, a cold and calculated girl who has been scouted ever since she was a child and became an elite member who recently graduated the top of her class. Both of them will join their own team and go on missions, taking down the others, while also uncovering strange mysteries of the world that could possibly lead to its very end.
Everybody got that?
So yeah, absolutely, the anime itself pretty much adapts the whole main story of the game, compiling lots of plot relevant bits from both perspectives during certain episodes. Not only that, but it will also have some new elements within the story, some that maybe not be present in the actual game, or changed to suit the anime, that would, on paper, not sound like a whole straight one-to-one recreation of the exact same story being told. And for a game that normally has like 2 campaigns, with each of them going for about 20 to 30 hours long, now being compressed to a 26 episode format, rather than the infamous 12 episode format that other JRPG anime adaptations tend to suffer, this sounds like a promising idea. But when it comes to how it's executed is where things start to go wrong, and that comes, my friends, to 3 points of why. One of which is, well, the pacing. The pacing itself is absolutely atrocious and completely rushed at times, with certain plot beats, just certain story beats, just, having little to no breathing room and being switched back and forth completely all over the place. And it's only even when some characters bring back plot points like, "Hey Kasane, remember that plot point that we glossed about? Oh yeah, I forgot about that." Something along those lines, where the characters would just, talk about story beats they just witnessed off screen in a sense, and not gonna lie, it really does not gel well in the slightest. Now, obviously, I am trying my best not to go to spoilers, as I'll have a separate spoiler section for this review in a bit. But another thing that really fumbles the bag is, well, some of the changes in this anime. And while there are some that I do admire and respect, there are of course some times where it can feel either ridiculous or just poorly executed, some of which actually even hurts the character work and story. Oh yeah, and another thing that really is bad about this is on how the characters are handled, or I should say lack of how the characters are handled are. Outside from maybe our main 2 heroes and even some side characters that didn't get much in the main game originally, mainly the other OSF members really do just, done no favors here. Well, not to only bring that, but also the voice cast from the game mostly do return for their roles, with a few exceptions being Shiden, Ratoru, and Joe. And for what they do sound fine. But unfortunately, even Shiden less makes an impression about this in anime, because completely, he's just, boring and generic, honestly. Another thing they removed entirely with this anime is the Bond episodes, so pretty much any of the other OSF characters, with maybe the exceptions of maybe Kyoka, Arashi, and kinda Kagero. But oh boy, what they did to Kagero is unforgivable. Pretty much outside of those characters, literally have no development, and literally you don't get to barely know them. There's even one episode where you just see a snippet of their characteristics, and almost even near the final few episodes. It's absolutely disappointing and frustrating that they didn't think of a way to implement the other qualities from the game into this anime, or hell, even give some other characters like flashbacks or even some certain arcs. Like if they were going to change some bit of the story, maybe at least give a little bit more of the other OSF characters to shine, at least, maybe. But man, poor OSF characters, Hanabi, Tsugumi, Luca to an extent, and Shiden.
Mask is my boy.
As for the characterization for, say, the main villain Karen, his one is kinda odd at points. And then at points where I just think they just pretty much made him nothing more but an over-the-top mustache twirling villain. Which, not that a whole lot has ruined his character thankfully, but still. Now we are on to spoiler territory, so by all means, if you want to, skip this, just go to the next timestamp, go to the next segment if you completely don't want to get spoiled. Not that there's too much to spoil, even though by this point I'm not sure if you'll be into watching this anime. Now we're at the spoilers section, so I want to list of things that, was really bad about this. Like on how they cut Kasane's and Yuto's first ever missions, mean that they have to hastily establish them as real cadets already with no sense of payoff. Or even cut a moment where Seto saves Kasane, and she would even slowly develop feeling for him. And even to a point where she would find his lost fountain pen with the assistance of Yuto. And thus, when he actually dies, it just feels very less impactful. I think out of all the side characters, Seto Narukami really drew the short straw in terms of screen time when it comes to this anime. Another thing they did was Karen's motives have already been teased at the very first episode, meaning the whole twist, which was built upon after Naomi's incident, just feels undercut, and it just feels predictable at this point, like they should not have done that. I don't even like on how Yuto's first actual mission in the prologue is handled, because it just feels sloppy. And worst of all, the first few episodes, Kasane herself is almost barely present. Like, I nearly forgot she was in this. How could they do that? Heck, I even think that Haruka gets less screen time than Wataru. Like, seriously, for those two characters who been given a little bit of time other than, being useful to the battlefield, especially in the game, I don't understand on how one of them gets less screen time than the other. Another thing that they also really did badly was how SAS and Brainfield were utilized in this anime. And that by mean very rarely for, when the plot demands it. Like they forgot the uses of it. Hell, Yuto and Kasane don't even learn about this whole Brainfield thing, maybe except for the final battle. And when SAS is used outside of plot convenience, it comes from mainly the Togetsu clone of Kasane that managed to attack them in Mizuagawa. Hell, we don't even explain or even know why Togetsu even managed to do that. I mean, why don't even Kasane's team even use their SAS against it? Why don't even the rest of the design children use it at all? It's never explained nor mentioned prior to this. Not only that, but prior to that stupid moment, there was a report that Zero forces were taking the human-turned-others from Seiron back to their region, where, in result, they also teased that Fubuki, Arashi's brother, was involved. But when they get to it and see the opposing OSF forces, Kasane's platoon find it nothing more than a lie, opposed to, in the game where the Malone twins, Kodama and Yuta, were posing as Fubuki within their power, trying to fool Arashi and still follow their orders. And speaking of the Malone twins, they're not in this anime at all. None of crimes that this anime really started to commit was kind of surprise of Kasane's team seeing that Kasane would attempt to kill Yuto, unaware that she was following his future self's pleas of begging to kill Yuto in the past. They pretty much already come to the conclusion of deciding to kill him because of his team learning of Seiron's secret. So when Kasane does be upfront to her friends, it feels absolutely weightless. Other things that really feel weightless is another flashback where Kasane is being nurtured by her mother Wakana Sumeragi after taking some serious punishment and harsh training from Togetsu. Not only that, but they have a line and I quote, because I'm not making this up, that they want to use her power to remake the universe, as the universe is corrupt. I'm sorry, what? What? Wasn't the reason that the Togetsu faith made the red strings was to undo the wrongdoings that led to the creation of the others, especially when a lot of them came from the moon? What does remaking the universe have to do with anything? And I haven't even got to Nagi and Kagero. So Nagi Kamen, Yuto's best friend, was captured by Sua's division for brainwashing, and during the last encounter, where Nagi juxtaposes for being in control to not in a matter of seconds before he decides to short-circuit himself to complete death. And the way it's handled is so bad, it's actually on par with how Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 Season 3 handled it. And that, my friends, is not a good sign. And Kagero. Kagero himself has given nothing but small characterization, with just him knocking about being the only strong point. And the whole reason of him killing Yuto's father, is just badly handled. When in the game he admits that he was the one who killed his father because his hands were literally tied, trying to rebel against Togetsu, when Togetsu gave him orders to assassinate him. But in this anime, it turns out that a group of others were the ones that killed Yuto's father, rather than Kagero did in the full game. As well as Kagero already revealed about his life and his family. So when Yuto and Kagero do actually even fight each other, it literally makes no sense and really undercuts the drama. Like, I really don't understand on why there kind of some things that really had, drama, conflict, tension within the characters that, were compelling. Oh, they really just did nothing more than just, give everyone a free pass and be like, it's okay, it wasn't your entirely fault. Like, just massive butchering. Well, with that talking about the plot out of the way, why not we move on to the animation, as that is itself a cornerstone of any anime, to be honest. And this anime was done by none other than Sunrise, a renowned studio that's known for making good-looking mega animes like, say, any Gundam shows, as well as one of my favorite animes, Code Geass. Not only that, but they also done the amazing opening of Scarlet Nexus, the game. And to be honest, I had a little bit of high hopes that they will make this anime look good. And to be honest, when it comes to both the openings and endings of this anime, they look absolutely beautiful. But when it comes to everything else, oh boy, do things just look absolutely bad. As well, the anime itself looks absolutely terrible. Characters themselves look fine enough, I guess, drawn sort of close to model with a few occasions of some really looking off model and just downright badly drawn. I think out of all the characters, Gemma himself is pretty much the worst one out of the lot. Another point is on how the locations from the game are being portrayed in the anime. And a lot of them really look dull and really look generic and boring. Worst case scenarios goes to, the abandoned subway and the museum, as well as even the city of Suo itself. There's only a few that have been given some care, but again, it's just a few. And that, my friends, is disappointing, as the game itself had some really nice looking varied locales. But that is far from the most disappointing thing about this, and that, my friends, is the action scenes. To put it blunt, the action in Scarlet Nexus, the anime, is terrible. There's no sense of rhythm, fluidity, or even just good action from these battles. as these characters just feel like they're wailing their attacks and moving all over the place. In some cases where characters that will have special AoE attacks just blows everyone away in the most over-the-top and unimpressive fashion ever. Not only that, but the others themselves, those monsters, are all completely CGI, and the OSF immediately use brain drive, which makes themselves completely CG. And honestly, it's really that bad to watch. There's even cases where characters would absolutely react or even fight with these weird red and blue backgrounds. And honestly, it just looks absolutely lazy and uninspiring. It's absolutely jarring, considering that the game is praised for its fast-paced, frenetic action combat, and it's a shame that an anime couldn't replicate that same kind of level of action at all. Hell, even some other anime, even based on video games, had much better fights than this, especially in the cases for something like, Fate, Stay Night, Heaven's Feel. So, the story handling is bad, the character writing is bad, the animation is bad, and the action is bad. But surely the music in this anime can't be all that bad, right? Right? And especially given the fact that Scarlet Nexus, the game, has a really fantastic soundtrack, and I was at least expecting for some tracks from the game to be used for this anime, I can safely say that I was completely disappointed because it barely uses any of those things I mentioned. The music, for lack of a better word for this anime, is just generic and bland. Like, nothing about the music in here absolutely fits, and to my knowledge, not even the composers from the game came to do soundtrack exclusive to the anime, which is absolutely disappointing. The only exception of actual good music is, the final battle with Karen, and purely so because that song is used for the shadow recording boss fight you get in the DLC of Scarlet Nexus. And, at least for both the openings and endings, they have some really good bangers, especially the former case for the openings, done by the Oral Cigarettes, who did the opening of Scarlet Nexus the game. And honestly, they're just amazing. And if Scarlet Nexus would ever get a sequel, I would be on board if those guys provide some more cool opening bangers. But yeah, aside from that, the music in this anime is absolutely weak. So yeah, if you probably noticed, I've been pretty much negative about this whole thing, haven't I? And you must be asking if there's any good positive moments about this, right? Well, you know what? There are actually. There's even some actually good moments in this anime. So, for once, why not I just highlight them before we wrap things up? So, obviously I mentioned before is that the anime has some really amazing openings and endings. Not only that, but I'm very happy that majority of the voice cast from the game do reprise their roles in the anime. And I think in episode 16 shows on how truly fantastic Erica Mendes is at voicing Cassandra Randall. And the same case goes for Megan Taylor Harvey, voicing both Hanabi and Alice Ichijo respectively. And man, she really has some impressive range between both characters. Another thing I really liked was having flashbacks for Kasane and Yuito, as well as even the relatives like Naomi and Kaito. And hell, even certain episodes do flesh out the lad too, and in my opinion, even develop them even further. I also even love the part where Naomi and Alice do communicate together, which actually makes sense thematically as they both being, human-based others and what they represent. I also do like that having civilians or even the news reporting on the events of what happens in the game, or even showing that civilians are being evacuated, really shows that the other attacks are absolutely dangerous and real, and gives a sense of urgency and tension making the world itself feel a little bit more alive. And to be honest, while I am very sad that Bond episodes have been cut, at least the jarring ones from opposing parties have been omitted, thankfully, especially in the case where, both teams try to kill each other, and then immediately when they have a Bond episode, they just apologize, like, oh, I'm sorry for killing you. Like, already that's just, that wasn't necessary, and I'm glad I cut that out. But if you really want my absolute positive best things about this whole anime, it would just be none other than episode 18 and 26, the former of which gives a full-on flashback into Karen's backstory, including his childhood and how he met Alison Fubuki. After playing his DLC from the game, watching this episode actually really hit me hard, and honestly, it was well done. But it's the final episode where it really is the best thing about this. This whole thing is a completely full-on epilogue, where we see what our main heroes are up to once the whole main threat of the game is completely gone, and what they plan to do moving forward. They all have really good banter, interactions, and some really cool designs. Hell, I even loved some of the casual designs they had when they interacted with Wakano once. And this ending, this may be a hot take, I know, but I think I might slightly prefer this ending over the game's one. Now, obviously the game's ending from my perspective is really good, but I think this anime, especially on how it ends, just really hammers home of me wanting a sequel to Scarlet Nexus. Hell, if anything, I think these two very good episodes are even stronger if you watch them separately without watching the rest of the anime. Personally, hell, I think they would have even suited better if they were as OVAs or even part of the game as, bonus collections within DLC or even special rewards you unlock when, complete the full game. But aside from that, yeah, at least while the anime really has its problems throughout the whole thing, at least it ended on a strong note with this episode. Now I think it's time to slowly wrap ourselves up and just, give my overall thoughts. So overall, the Scarlet Nexus anime is nothing short of both a disappointing and weak adaptation for an otherwise great JRPG. It really tries its best to not only follow the source material, but have some divergences within the original narrative to make itself fresh and stand out on its own. But however, it's really the things it changes that are either jarring, poorly paced, or not well thought out. The cast itself is underwritten at best with a few standouts, and the animation is really lackluster on top of having some bad action scenes and generic music. But it's really where the anime shines, with both the openings and endings, as well as even some characters, especially the side ones, doing at least gain, some modicum of, actual development. And episodes like 18 and the final episode really do give it a good outcome and explore things that the game really didn't touch upon. So aside from those things I mentioned, do I recommend this anime to, say, newcomers? No. I honestly prefer if you just play the game instead, and if you like it, then maybe just at least watch episode 18 and 26. But for actual fans of the game, I still say no and just again watch episode 18 and 26. But if you're really that curious on how it goes, maybe give it a bit of a watch and see what you think of it. So in conclusion, I give the Scarlet Nexus anime 2.5 out of 5 Bakis. Anyway guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and until then, take care and see you guys in the next video.